friends, and welcome back to another episode of my In the Hive series. Today, I have Jayda InStitches coming on with me. I'm so very excited to have her here. I have actually been following her for such a long time. I think I found her because FRIZZY'S used to be called Ink and Stitches. So I found her kind of by looking myself up, but whatever it was, I'm glad I did. So without further ado, let me grab Jayda and have her come on in with us. Here she is. Hi, Jayda.
Hello.
How are you?
Howdy. Good. Very good. I'm going to cross my legs here and hopefully I won't knock over anything, including my tea. There
Exactly. Jayda and I were catching up. She's lovely, and her background's so colorful. She's so colorful. It's so much fun to gab with you. I know we'll have a good chance to catch up here. So, but when did you start crocheting? When did this whole journey for you start?
Well, I started to crochet for real in my teens. I was a knitter first. My best friend, when we were 11, we live in a very rural area growing up, and down the street from her, one of her neighbors was a 4-H leader, and they were going to be doing a course on knitting. And she said, do you want to learn? And she said, yeah, I'm going to ask my friend. And so we took this 4-H course. I joined 4-H, which I think they have in the States. They have 4-H in the States.
Yes.
There's like two versions of it up here. There's like the type that is very farm oriented and you're raising farm animals. And then there's like the other wing of it where you're doing a lot more sort of domesticated stuff like cooking and a whole bunch of different domestic activities. I don't know what word to call it, but that's the wing I wound up in. So I learned to knit with her. So we were 11. We learned to knit through the 4-H, and I liked it. But at 11, you've got a short attention span.
Yeah,
and
you're over it.
I had a crochet hook in my collection because, cute story, when I was 5, my church was having one of those like craft sale bazaar things, and my mom was helping organize it, so I was there the whole day, and I was sort of bored and wandering around. I think I had 25 cents to spend, and there was this thing on one of the tables for 5 cents, and it was a crochet hook, and I picked it up, and for some reason I was quite fascinated with it, so I bought it, took it home, and I always knew where it was, which is weird. Of all the things, I always knew where this strange little hook was, and my mother had told me, oh, it's a crochet hook, but she didn't know how to crochet. And so then I grew up and I always had this thing, and then I kept it with my knitting needles because for some reason I was like, oh, this is knitting needle related. Maybe this is knitting related.
It's like a friend.
Learn to knit, put the knitting down. Yeah, and then when I was about 13 or 14, I was starting to I was into sewing in a big way, and I was starting to get really obsessed with making my own clothes. And I love secondhand stores. I was at a secondhand store. I was in the secondhand book section. I found a leaflet. I've actually got a video of it on my channel, but I had a leaflet of how to like crochet all these different like 1970s outfits. Yeah. Got obsessed, bought the book for like 25 cents again, went home, and I had yarn left over from knitting. And I had this crochet hook, and I taught myself based on the diagrams inside the book. And then there was no stopping me. So, except one caveat, went off to university. My friend Teresa taught me how to make a granny square. And that completed my crochet universe, that whole turning a corner thing. Right. And then that's it. I haven't really put the hooks down since. So.
Oh my gosh. Do you prefer crochet now that you've gotten into it, or do you still knit?
I still knit, not as often, just because knitting takes so much longer to make something than crochet. But, and I know this might be an unpopular opinion, knitting is so much more lacy. That has the option to be so much lighter and lacier and more beautiful, I think, than crochet. Crochet is almost a little more clunky. It's really well suited for like 3-dimensional things, thick blankets, stuff like that. The argument can be made that crochet thread things you can't do that as nicely with knitting. So I would say that like, if you're going to use crochet and crochet thread, you can get the super crazy laced oily stuff. But if it comes to like making clothing and lightweight, beautiful, I feel like knitting is kind of where it's at for that.
It lends itself better for that.
But knitting is like, you can drop a stitch, you can just mess up an entire row so easily. And it's dealing with these long needles and you're poking your neighbors. And I don't know, I love knitting, but I crochet way more. It's faster. It's more fun. I feel like I can do more and express myself more with crochet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For sure. Yeah. The whole, if you drop a stitch, that terrifies me because, crochet, it's fine. You can just, keep
It's also
going.
obvious,
But
hey, I've
yeah,
dropped a stitch because it's not on my hook,
right. But knitting, it's like, oh my gosh, why don't I have the right number? Where did I go wrong? And then you're trying to figure
Yeah,
out how
where
to
did I lose
backtrack
it?
it and it's not right. And that stressed me out when I learned how to knit. So I think that's probably what led me to crochet more too. Just
Yeah,
easier. Yeah.
it's just faster and easier, and I feel like there's more flexibility to crochet. It's
Yeah.
much more mobile. You can take it
Hmm.
on the road a lot easier than knitting. And I
Yeah.
mean, I'm somebody who obsessively traveled with her knitting for years. I knit on planes, I knit
Mm.
at work, I knit at school. I knit I would spend my lunch hours in high school in the
Hmm.
library knitting.
Yeah.
Knitting mittens, knitting anything. I was just obsessively knitting all the time. And I took it everywhere. But as soon as I got more into crochet and I found
Hmm.
like I was taking it places, I'm like, oh, this is so much more mobile. So yeah, I feel like
Yes.
I've spent a lot of time on both, and
Yeah.
I tend to reach for the hooks more than the needles.
The needles now. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. And I just want to let you all know, I see you guys are chatting, and hello and welcome in to everybody, as well as my new Inner Hive member, Amigurumi Crochet. Thank you so very much for joining the Hive. And I also just wanted to say, let's see, where did it go? It was so funny. Hang on. I think it's flown right on by, you guys. But I think Michelle was saying, oh yeah, there it is. Knitting hurts my head. Yeah. Her motto, knitting hurts my head. Yeah, it does.
It does. You really do have to pay more attention to it.
Right?
I feel you do. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And I will give you guys all a chance to ask Jayda your questions. I'm just going to go through some of mine, just how we usually do in the Hive series, and then you will have the floor to ask her whatever you want. So you started knitting, then you went to crochet, but how did it turn into this amazing business that you have going for yourself?
That's all my husband.
Oh yeah.
I barely paid attention to like I knew YouTube existed, but
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, like when we got it going, so we've had the channel going for a little over 10 years now.
Okay.
I didn't really think of like I wasn't going to YouTube for anything. Like I wasn't thinking about YouTube. I didn't really watch YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't really
In the
thinking
world
about
of
anything like that.
YouTube. Yeah.
I taught crochet to my friends. I
Mm-hmm.
crocheted obsessively on my lunch hours at work,
Mm-hmm.
in the evenings, all night. Like I just loved it. And then
Yeah.
I would do the odd craft show
Mm-hmm.
to sell stuff. And this was like I've been doing that since I was 16. So I've done craft shows on and off, selling various things that I've made for
Mm-hmm.
years. And it was just fun. And it was a way to kind of like just hang out with some local people and unload
Yeah.
the stuff that I made all year because I didn't really crochet with any intention back then. This was
Right.
fun. This was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my husband was like, I think it would be really fun if we started a YouTube channel. I think that would be a smart move.
Yeah.
Because this is like a thing. And I was like, oh, okay, like sure.
This is really
Um,
popular. We should be doing this.
yeah, and I was like, all right. And then and I have a history, like I've got a background in theater. So he was like,
Okay.
you're comfortable being on stage. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, we should do something. What do you want to do? I'm like, well, I'll literally get bored of literally everything except crochet. So if
Right.
you want to actually stick at something, I said it'll have to be crochet. And he was like, all right, like I'll handle, like I'll edit, I'll take photos,
Yeah.
like I'll just do the stuff that he liked doing anyway.
Yeah.
He's got a background in graphic design.
Oh,
So he
that
was like,
helps.
and he loves tech and software and that's his world. And he was like, let's start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So it was him.
That's so
And then he
cool.
was like, you should start an Etsy shop. And I was like, okay. And it was, so it's all him.
I love that.
I probably never would have, I probably still to this day wouldn't really be thinking about YouTube if it wasn't for
Right.
him. Because I just don't like, I don't want to knock everything down here. Oops. Me and my elbows. I get so busy talking with my elbows flying. I just don't think about, I'm not a social media person.
Yeah.
So I still probably would not be thinking in terms of, which is so
So
silly
does he
given
do
that,
all the social media too? Like he does all the
Yeah.
tech stuff, all this,
Yeah. Yeah, he
marketing.
runs our website. I have a lot to do. I have a lot more to do with the Etsy shop now.
Okay.
Like I've kind of taken over running that for the most part, but
Mhm.
he deals with everything else because I
My
think
gosh.
I know how to do it all, but
Right.
he's better at it. So
That's not what brings you joy, but it brings him joy. That's like
yeah,
the
like
best
yeah, he's really
partnership
good at
right
like
there.
editing videos, and he does all of our animations, and like and he loves that stuff. Like it's like he's
Yeah.
really good at it and everything. And I like it too, but I would rather just be designing something like
Yeah.
crochet related. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
If my husband could do that, he'd be like, he could, he knows how to, but he has his own, adventures in music and stuff like that he wants to do. So that's
yeah.
like a partnership made in heaven, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's worked out really nicely. I
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't be doing because it requires like a tremendous amount of attention,
Oh yeah.
all of it. So
Mhm.
I definitely like the channel wouldn't be this old, and it wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't the two of us working on it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So was there something specific that you put out? Was there certain content that you put out that just blew up and helped you succeed in the YouTube algorithm? You know what I mean? Did something go viral of yours? And did it
Not at
surprise you?
first. Yeah, not at first. Like we everything was just a slow, steady
Hmm.
growth. Probably because when we
Yeah.
started, there might have been a couple other crochet channels out there
Hmm.
before us. I don't really know. I wasn't paying attention. This is so my
Yeah.
husband was like, "Hey, people do crochet on YouTube." I'm like, "Oh yeah?" Like I just was
Yeah.
not paying attention.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
knew that there were a couple of others, but there really wasn't a lot of creative content at all on YouTube
Yeah.
when we got started. Like anything. Like sewing is my big thing. And I was started looking for sewing content, and there was like nothing. So, there really wasn't much of anything in this world
Yeah.
on YouTube back then. So when we started putting tutorials out there, we were just putting out anything. Like we were doing little stuffed toys
Hmm.
and hats, and we finally did a granny square, and the granny square did well.
Hmm.
Um, because I think a lot of people think granny square when they think crochet.
Right.
They think maybe that's the place I should start. So
Hmm.
our granny square tutorial started to do really well, but I'm not sure that that was the main reason that we took off. I think
Mm.
it was just really slow,
Yeah.
steady growth for
Hmm.
years. And we had so that that video did well. It
Hmm.
still does well. But then the one video that kind of surprised us was we put out a round rug tutorial,
Okay.
like a round rug, just like a
Yeah.
little area rug.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because I struggled with it. I struggled with that pattern
Mhm.
so much. And it was so frustrating. And by the time we'd launched that video, I was like, I never want to think about this rug again.
Like, I
Like I'm
hate
gonna
this
put it on
round
the
rug.
floor. I'm gonna step on it. I'm never gonna think about it again. And over like maybe 48 hours, like he
Mhm.
went to kind of check on the channel for something, and he did like a triple take, and he was like, what the, and it had just exploded. And we were like, what? Like
He's like, "You're
I'm
making more
still
round rugs, Jayda."
yeah, so it's weird.
Funny.
That one went viral almost immediately.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest like that we've got several videos that do really well, but that
Mhm.
one went kind of viral almost immediately, and it's
Yeah.
hilarious that it did because I was so ready to see the back end of that
Right.
project. Like,
Oh my gosh. He's like, "Make a square rug, do an oval one." People like
yeah,
this.
and the funny thing is like any shape probably outside of that round one would have been much easier to do. It's just that
Right.
working in the round, and if
Mhm.
it's not just a solid, regular, mathematically ever increasing solid double crochet or solid single stitch,
Mhm.
the second you start trying to work different designs into it,
Patterns and designs,
you
yeah.
got ripple issues. It just wants to ripple, it wants to
Yeah.
bunch, it wants to so it was a real
Lot of frogging to get that one right, probably.
yeah, and no consistent math,
Right.
which drives me crazy. I love crochet because the math is like it's just
Mhm.
everything is math
Yep.
except for that rug. Anyway,
It's like the bane of your existence, yet it helped
yeah,
launch the career.
it definitely put us on the map for a lot of people. A
Yeah.
lot of people found us through that. And strangely, it did the best in India.
Mhm. In
Like
India?
huge
That
views coming from India
yeah,
on that rug.
yeah.
So like that, and I was like, okay,
You never know. Yeah.
you never know. You never know what's
This
going to take off or where.
exactly, yes. How interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So when you crochet, do you have any would you say you have any pet peeves with crochet or things that just drive you nuts, or do
Yeah,
you like every part of it?
when I've got to fight with the math, it
Okay.
makes me bonkers. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I feel that if you, so a lot of people, one of the things that makes me sort of snicker is that I get a lot of comments and people complaining about like a mathematical formula.
Mhm.
Like, I don't get this. Can you just tell me how many I need? Well, no, I can't, because
Right.
you are unique, and your yarn and your hook and your tension is unique, and that's why there's a
Mhm.
formula here to follow. And yeah, but I don't get it. Yes, you do. You do.
Yeah.
You just were told at some point in high school that you can't do math, and you believed somebody. Stop
Right.
that. You can do math. If you can count to 10, you can do math, right? And you can
Yes.
certainly crochet.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's all about scaling. The math in crochet scales perfectly.
Yeah.
It scales perfectly. Double crochet is double the height of a single crochet. If you
Yeah.
want, literally 1.5 times the size of a single crochet, you have a half double crochet. Like everything is just this perfect scaling,
Mhm.
ever perfectly mathematical equation, right? It's too big, downsize your hook. It's too tight, okay, bigger hook. Like it's
Mhm.
just this perfect thing. So when all of those rules, those literal laws of physics,
Yeah.
don't work on something like that round rug,
Mhm.
I kind of lose my cool, because I'm like, no, you're supposed to work. Like the math says you're supposed to be perfect now. And why
Yeah.
aren't you lying flat?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's my biggest pet peeve. When something
Oh,
refuses to follow the rules of
right.
crochet physics, it
It doesn't
drives
math
me
right.
bonkers.
Not doing what it was supposed to be doing. The math was right. What was wrong with
Yeah,
that circle rug?
the math says this is supposed to work. Yeah, that drives me crazy.
Ness says, I agree. People don't want to do math, and they also don't want to do gauge swatches either, or check their tension.
Nobody wants to do a gauge, and I don't even want to do a gauge. I
No.
laugh. I always say, always do your gauge, because I made an entire baby coat once for an infant, and it fit a 2-year-old. So like, always do your gauge. It is such an annoying thing to get to the end of
Yeah.
a project and have it not work out. But
Yeah.
yeah, nobody wants to waste time with a swatch. You want to jump right into
Yeah.
the project, right?
Feel it, or don't want to waste the yarn, or anything like that. I've heard lots
Yeah.
of different things. I haven't really done swatching, but that's usually because I wasn't into doing wearables, which I'm starting to dip my toe in. And so I think at some point, if a swatch thing is there, I will do that. Like if there's a sweater or something like that, because that would be
Take the time.
tragic to find at the end it's too tight. Although my daughter will just wear it, so it works out either way. But still,
Yeah,
um,
it's definitely, if you're making a wearable, it's definitely worth to take the time to do a
yeah.
swatch, if a swatch is important. So like, not every wearable project necessarily needs a swatch.
Hmm.
Like scarves can kind of vary in size, like you can also, like,
Yeah.
some things you can fix on the go. Like
Yeah.
you can add more rows to a scarf to make it longer.
Yeah. What can
If
you do
you're,
if you've made it too long, Jada? I have one for my son. I measured it last night. It's over 8 feet long.
how
I'm
did you
just
not notice that
like,
while you
twice, and it'll be nice and chunky. But I'm like 4 inches into it, and I'm going, unfortunately, it's not horizontal, it's vertical. So I've already made the length, so I can't cut it.
oh
So just
man.
he's like, it's okay, Mom, I'll just keep wrapping it. I want it to cover my face. I'm like, well, it'll probably cover your whole head.
It'll cover everything. It'll cover the neighbor's house. Like,
Exactly. I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't mean to make it that long. I was just kept on going, I guess.
you know what? It's funny. My mother-in-law just had the same problem with a blanket. She was
Mhm.
she was kind of in a we all use crochet for like our sanity at some
Yeah,
point, and
stress relief. Mhm.
she was like trying to like just calm her mind for a while there a few years ago, and she was just crocheting this blanket, and she wasn't really thinking about it. She would just pick it up and work, pick it up and work, pick it up and work.
Yeah.
And then she realized, like, oh man, this thing is heavy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I can pull this thing around anymore. Like, oh, this is so heavy. I don't Working on this
Mhm.
isn't very much fun. All right, I'll finish it off. oh my God, like this thing is like, it's like 25 feet long, you know, and,
Yeah.
and it was narrow. And I'm like, what? Like you could fold it in half and it would still be too long for like a twin bed. And I'm like, what? At what point did you not notice how long this blanket was getting? She's like, I don't know. I was just trying to like, it was just something to keep my fingers busy. I'm like, wow. You know? So she cut it in half and made 2 blankets out of it. Like she cut it in half.
She cut it?
She cut it in half. She goes, what do I do? What do I do? I said, how about like, cut it, cut it in half. You take out whatever is a broken cut thing. It'll eventually come back to, on one side will be pulled out to the last knot and you won't lose anything. The other side, you just pull out all the broken pieces and then just fasten it off like you would a hat loom or a Tunisian piece, or like knitting. You just fasten it off with another piece of yarn and put a border on it.
Yeah.
2 blankets.
You won't even notice, huh?
No.
Wow.
So that's what she eventually did.
About that,
I don't want to waste all that work, right?
I might need that for this scarf. Although somebody in the comments was saying, Crochet Crazy was saying, fold the ends up to make pockets. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. Ask him first though, because I mean, I don't know what like kids are very particular about like their stuff. You know, they go through these phases of like, you know, oh, it's cool to pin your pants with safety pins, and now it's not cool to pin your pants with safety pins. Like, you know what I mean?
The trend.
So having pockets on your scarf might be good at one week, and then it might not be the next. So,
oh my god!
Yes.
That is so true. Oh my gosh! So, in any given day, how much would you say you crochet? How many hours?
I crochet a lot less now than I used to. There's a few reasons for that. Like one, I crocheted because it was just sort of something that kept me busy. Like it was for fun. I didn't have rheumatoid arthritis presenting symptoms for a long time in my hands and wrists. I do now, so I have to be a little more careful about that. So any given week, it depends on what project I've got going. So some days I will not pick up a hook at all. Other days I might only crochet for like half an hour. And some days I'll crochet for like 7 hours straight. Like it just,
oh my gosh,
it really depends on the project. But yeah, I do not crochet nearly as much as I used to. I used to never be seen without a hook or a pair of knitting needles. I actually had a friend at university who nicknamed me the Mach 5 knitter. I could knit really fast because I was never without my knitting needles. I was never without a hook. I was never without knitting needles. Never without my yarn. And I'll actually go places without it now.
You feel never free. You know? I'm not tied by yarn.
Yeah, it's just it's I have to rest now. Like I never used to have to do that, but now I do. So, you know, I'm trying to like, okay, I'm going to like, what have I got? What project am I working on? So then I have to like back up and figure out how long the whole thing's going to take me and then break it up into like manageable chunks so that I don't run myself in any trouble. Because I can max out and do like a 6-hour crochet day, but then I'll pay for it for a few days.
Right.
And I don't like doing that anymore. So
yeah.
Need to take breaks.
Take some breaks. Yeah. I know if anybody ever mentions, oh, my hands are starting to hurt, but I want to crochet. I'm like, just take a break. You need to take a break. It starts shooting up your arms and then you can't do anything for a week, you know, to heal. And
listen to your body. It is really important. Especially the older you get. It just pay attention. Like if there's something complaining, take a break. Pay attention.
Yeah. I start getting like a wrist kind of pain, you know, sometimes. And so it's important to listen to your body. What is your favorite thing to crochet?
That keeps changing too. I know, like it's funny. I get asked that a lot. And it's a funny, I always thought it feels like a funny question because to me, I like crochet for crochet. I like crochet because I love designing. And I like designing in that 3-dimensional format. So I used to be obsessed with making little toys like 25, 30 years ago. I really liked making little toys. And then I was obsessed with hats. And I go through hat obsessions because I always loved making hats. I liked making granny squares. I couldn't make enough granny squares for a while. right now, I think it's just like we back in 2019, we did a calendar blanket called the folk art calendar blanket. And because I really loved the idea of making, I love tapestry. I love the way like big wall hangings look. And I wanted to try and do something with crochet in that world. So we did the 2019 folk art blanket. And I think it's still my favorite project, that our favorite blanket project to date. And I always come back to that in my head. And in the last year, that's all I've really wanted to do was make more wall hangings, like more paint. I call it painting with crochet. And that's kind of I'm obsessed with that right now. I want to make little tiny like designs. And so we've
this
been
is
doing
like
that.
applique on some large backing that you're creating with crochet.
Not just applique, like we did the Fair Isle style, which is like a mosaic style of crochet, and I really enjoyed doing that too because I love designing with graph work. So if it's a way that I can paint an image, whether I stitch it in or stitch it on, that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like my favorite thing right now. So yeah, and that'll probably change in a couple of years. I'll be, off to something else because that seems to happen a lot with me. You go through phases. I think if you stick with a hobby long enough, you kind of go from making like, oh, I can't make enough sweaters to I don't want to see another sweater to, I love granny squares. I don't want to see another granny square. Like I think you kind of get sick of things, right?
You do.
But then you circle back to them too, because you'll be like, I was obsessed with making mittens for the longest time when I was knitting.
Yeah.
All I made was mittens for like years. I love making mittens. I don't want to make mittens right now. You know what I mean? Like
next Christmas, do you need another pair of mittens, guys? No, we're good.
Nobody needs mittens. No.
Oh my gosh. So from following you for so long, I have taken notes from you in the fact that you do a lot of live crochet alongs. And I loved that sort of, right. It's here, it's now, ask me questions if you have any, that kind of a thing. So I've done that on my own channel and we've, made amis together and it's been a lot of fun. Is that your favorite way to teach, is live like that? Or do you enjoy filming tutorials and editing tutorials and then posting them? Like perfect world, what would be the best way for you to teach?
I think it really depends again on the project. I love the ability to film and edit because sometimes for like a blanket where you're repeating the same stitch for 70 odd rows, nobody needs to see all that.
Right.
Hey, see this? Do that 70 times.
Yes.
And I love those short, like you can take a big project like a blanket and talk about the important part, the stitch work, and then go, okay, now repeat that. Repeat it. Change colors if you want to repeat it. That really suits a video, filmed, edited, and then maybe you can, make it a little shorter so people don't feel like they have to sit around and watch an hour of something. But things where there's a lot of just, you're changing direction constantly. You're okay, you only do 2 half double crochets. Now we got a chain, sometimes that's better suited to a live stream. I feel just because if you have to film the whole thing and you can't really break it up and just be like, okay, I'll see you at the end of the row, or do 7 rows of this. It's if you're going to watch the whole thing in real time anyway, then why not do it live? Yeah. So I think both are really great. It's just, it depends on what it is. Yeah. Because I wouldn't want to sit and work on I wouldn't want to live stream just making a repetition row blanket. Right. I think I'd run out of things to talk about, Yeah. And it's like you're watching the same thing over and over again. So as a viewer, like I like to think about, well, would I sit and watch somebody's hands do the same stitch over and over again for an hour? No, I don't think I would. Not unless the conversation was really interesting. Right. So I think I'd rather just watch. I'd like to watch things become something. Yeah. In a reasonable amount of time. So one of the nice things about watching a blanket get made in a video is that you go, okay, that's the stitch. And then there's this lovely little, time fade,
Yeah.
you know,
I'll meet you
thing, and then
back
you're
after
looking
you've
at the
done
whole
50
thing.
rows.
Yeah, and you're like, "Oh, it's the before and after," right? So that's very appealing,
Yeah.
and it's not so easy to get that same effect live, but you can
Yes.
do it with smaller things like appliques and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
for
kind of
sure.
learned that the hard way because we did a floppy cat. I have this floppy cat that's a good size, but he, 4 legs and they're all the same. And so I was like, okay, guys, we're doing it again. Let's go, And I think it ends up being more just a gab session while you're doing the same stitches, which is fine too. And I think there are a lot of people that will enjoy that, but I totally get it. Like, depends on the project for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think if you're gonna have an old fashioned um like stitch session, like you
Hmm.
have your girlfriends over and you're all working on something, traditionally you'd all be in the same room and largely you'd be looking at what you were doing. Even though you were all having a conversation, you can hear
Right.
what other people are saying.
Yep.
With the live stream, like if I'm looking at what I'm doing, I can't also be, looking at the chat and
Hmm.
communicating. I know some people can do that. I just can't. I can't read everything going on. And frequently we have a lot of people in the chat, chit chatting, and there's it's difficult to follow all the conversation and
Sure.
crochet. So
Hmm.
I think like I think that's why working on a singular big project that is very repetitive doesn't suit the live stream format for me, because
Sure.
I can't pay attention to what I'm doing
Hmm.
and be involved in the chat. So I think it would, like I say, I would run out of things to talk about.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. I think since I've experienced those times where it's like, oh my gosh, okay, guys, we're just going to chat because we're going to be doing this single crochet around for the next 20 rounds. Let's do this, and we just start going, and it's fun. You feel like you're hanging out with friends while you're crocheting and stuff. But I've thought about editing down those lives and like making a abridged version of the tutorial, because it's
For
just
sure.
there's people
Yeah.
that's not going to watch that. They're like, I don't want a 4-part video. I want to just go and do it myself, kind of thing.
Well,
So,
that's the thing. Like
yeah.
some projects, and if you make things, yourself, it's like, well, okay, well, what's the stitch? Okay, I can do that. All right, well,
Yeah.
now I'm going to go catch up on my TV show because I don't have to watch somebody do every stitch of a 72 row repetition blanket.
Right.
I know I'm okay. That's the stitch pattern. Okay, boink, pause video,
Yep.
catch up with whatever.
Yeah.
And I
You're
feel like
multitasking.
the projects that lend themselves to that kind of thinking, like that's how I would do that project. That's how I will present that project to the world,
Hmm.
like how
Yeah.
I would consume it. So
Yeah, exactly. So do you have any other hobbies? So you've said you knit, crochet, and sew. Are those pretty much those are your favorites, or do you have anything else that you enjoy doing as well?
I dabble in a little bit of everything. I think sewing is my number one.
Mm-hmm.
I love sewing. I've been sewing longer than anything else. I
Mm-hmm.
always come back to sewing. Um, I like to try and mix the hobbies as much as I can. I like to
Mm-hmm.
paint. I don't know. I like everything. I got into scrapbooking in a big way for a
Mm-hmm.
while. I like to try every little hobby that comes, like every little craft project that comes along.
Yeah.
I really enjoy gardening. I enjoy
Oh.
being outside. I think I have a lot of hobbies. I'm also starting now to kind of get into woodworking in a little way.
Oh, neat.
We'll see where that goes.
Yeah. Sitting there
Uh,
whittling or what?
yeah, actually working with power tools.
Oh, there you
My
go.
husband just gave me a little miniature handheld chainsaw that I can like trim stuff with, because we've got a bush lot that we've got to take care of, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't handle a whole chainsaw, but I can handle a little one, and
Yeah.
that is a lot more fun than I realized it was going to be. So
Yeah.
I've got some, like I like painting furniture. I don't know. I think if
Mm-hmm.
you're creative, you kind of end up being attracted to a lot of different hobbies,
Yes, for sure.
because you can't help it. It's
You
like one
can't.
thing leads to the next.
Mm-hmm. And you get
But I'd say
inspiration from other artists for no matter what you're doing. If somebody's painting, it could inspire you to crochet something. I mean, I feel like it's all kind of intermixed.
absolutely, yeah, for
Um,
sure. Yeah.
what would you suggest to somebody who is kind of just starting out on YouTube and they want to have a crochet channel just like we do? Do you have anything that you kind of wish you knew back when you started that would have helped you a little bit?
Well, I mean, YouTube now is a very different place than it was
Yeah.
11, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It is like, it's got a lot of competition now.
Yeah.
There was no TikTok, Facebook and Twitch and Twitter and all these places like where you can watch video now. They didn't have video. I think it was
Right.
largely just YouTube, and I think Twitch was kind of in its infancy, but it was mostly video game stuff back then.
Mm-hmm.
So YouTube's a very different world now. There's a lot. They have a lot of different software. Does a lot of different things. There's a lot more. The eyeballs are elsewhere too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to have a crochet channel on YouTube, prepare to treat it if it's something you want to make a run at, like you want it to actually make you money or
Mm-hmm.
get you seen so that you can like interact with like a bigger community or sponsors or whatever your angle is for whatever
Sure.
reason you want to be on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
um, Prepare to live it, sleep, drink, breathe it. It's like if you just want it to be like a diary, like I
Tutorial
have
or
like
vlogs, kind of. Yeah.
yeah, like I mean like a diary, like something that you pop into once in a while and you kind of
Mm-hmm.
update because you want a diary. I understand that some people kind of look at it like it's a diary. They're making a they're kind of creating a little history for themselves in a little
Mm-hmm.
court, like they go back and look at it and stuff. Everybody's got different reasons for creating a YouTube channel.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's worth asking yourself, first of all, why am I doing this? Like, what is
Mm-hmm.
the purpose of this? Do I want this to be a business? Do I want it to become a business?
Mm-hmm.
If it's about becoming a business, if it's about becoming your main, like your job, basically,
Mm-hmm.
or even or a side hustle, whatever
Yeah.
it is that you kind of, if you're angling in that direction, it isn't something you can take lightly. You've got to, at first especially, you got to just dedicate every spare moment you have to it. You've got to,
Yeah.
every single thought in your head has got to be, well, can I turn that into a project? Is that a project? What am I doing right now? Should I be filming this? Like, and
Right.
learn everything you can about editing and learn everything you can about the software, because it keeps
Mm-hmm.
changing.
It
They
does.
keep updating it and making differences to it, and they keep
Mm-hmm.
making the stupidest changes, in my opinion. Like, why did they change community to become posts? It drives, like, why?
Exactly.
Why?
I'm like, what happened to my community tab? And
You
then I saw this post.
So
Yeah,
I think that
so it
was kind
makes
of
sense.
silly, but you have to now fully educate yourself in this world, and that
Mm-hmm.
world keeps changing.
Yeah.
So you've got to dedicate a lot of time and energy to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just documenting for the sake of documenting, which is also perfectly awesome,
Mm-hmm.
then don't worry about any of it. Just turn the camera on, talk, turn the camera off. But
Yeah.
I think you really want to start a channel to be something watchable that you want other people to kind of engage with and enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
you have to ask yourself a lot of questions. Why am I doing this? And am I prepared to really put in the time, work, and effort? Because
Yeah.
it's not easy. It's not easy to run a channel. You have to decide, am I going to engage with people in the comment section?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody does. Tons of channels don't bother with their comment section. Some people even have the comments turned off.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to be on other social media? Am I going to direct them all to each other? How am
Yeah.
I going to handle this web of interaction?
Yeah.
So I think ask yourself why you're starting it. Um, then be prepared to put in a lot of time and thought and effort, and just be constantly thinking about it,
Mm-hmm.
and do the research. Really pay attention to the software. Read the small print. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, read all the fine print. If you're starting, like I said, YouTube isn't the same that it was
Yeah.
12, years ago. Now AI they've got AI programs that are, unless you say no, I think we're,
Mm-hmm.
as a channel right now, if you're a YouTube channel, you're not automatically in this program. You have to go in and accept the program, but that could change. You have to pay
Yeah.
attention
Mm-hmm.
that AI is allowed to basically comb all your content and learn off of it and use
Mm-hmm.
it. And well, are you okay with that? Like, you have to pay attention to all this stuff. So be prepared to spend a lot of time. It's
Yeah.
not just like some other social media sites where you kind of log in and post a little note like, hey y'all, I'm enjoying a cup of tea, and then like you
Yeah.
leave again, and not that big a deal.
Right.
It can be a lot of work, and And if you feel yourself becoming overwhelmed by it, take a break, step back,
Yeah.
because it's very easy also to get snowballed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, by, because there is so much going on all the time, and there's like so much to think about and
Mm-hmm.
read and to keep on top of, you know,
Right.
it's a lot. So be prepared to spend the time. I guess that's my biggest thing, would
Yeah.
be like, you've got time dedication ahead of you.
Right. Yeah. You can't just, if you want it, especially if you want it to become your business or anything like that, you can't just dip your toe in and expect to have that huge success, you know, unless, I mean, I think it's more rare for things to go viral in that sense where that happens for you than it is to just have that steady, like you were saying, you know, you build it slowly. It's a slow build. And you're not going to get that success the next day that you post, you know, it's going to take a while.
I think also too, it's like, just expect expect to grow a community,
Yeah.
because you will grow a community.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does. It might be small, that's okay. It might be big, that's okay too. But really appreciate the community that comes to your channel, because they could go anywhere. They could be interested in anything.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you're there and you're making content and there's somebody who wants to come and watch it or involve themselves in it or interact with it is like so awesome. Appreciate the community that builds up around your channel, and don't constantly be thinking about, like, YouTube is always sending out these little uh um surveys.
Oh, uh-huh.
And I feel like they're constantly pushing, like, do you want to grow? Do you want to grow your channel? Grow, 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 get bigger, get
Yeah.
bigger. And I'm like,
Get more, get more. Mm-hmm.
you know, sure, but to what end? Because
Right.
if you keep getting bigger, if you keep growing, you know, how do you can't comfortably interact
Yeah.
with too big a group of people.
Right.
You can't please everybody. You can't,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you can't expect to be constantly seen. Maybe you come out, like, maybe if you're like me and you put out tutorials mostly, not every single one is going to hit. Some people are going to
Right.
be like, why did you do that? You know,
Yeah.
um, and it's like, it's fine. Maybe that week you're just putting something out because you made it and you really enjoyed it and you thought maybe 3 other people might get a kick out of this. You know, hey,
Mm-hmm.
if 300,000 people get a kick out of it, that's great.
Yeah.
But don't be disheartened. Don't be shocked,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the outcome, if people like it or don't. It's like, you did this
Yeah.
hopefully because you enjoyed it, you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do it. I think it's easy for people to get caught up with, like, oh, this one person said, hey, can you do a, you know, random thing?
Right.
And if you want to do it, that's fine. But if you're like, oh, am I going to have to, you know, buy a whole bunch of new yarn and dedicate all this extra time, and
Yeah.
you really have to, like, crunch the numbers on it, then maybe that's not something you should be doing right at that time. Maybe, you know, put it
Mm-hmm.
on the list and maybe look at it doing it later. But
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think it's really important to do what you enjoy, because it's very easy to get burnt out if
Yeah.
you're constantly trying to please a bunch of people. And if you think pleasing a bunch of people will get you like a bigger community, not necessarily. I think it's really good to remember that there are channels of all kinds of
Right.
thematic stuff on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
that started last year and have just exploded. And that's, who knows why. You know, it's just the X
Mm-hmm.
factor. We're the right thing at the right time in the right place, talking about the right, you know, subject.
Yeah.
And other people are just chugging along for a decade, and all of a sudden you discover them and you're like, there's a decade of content on this channel? Like,
Right.
how come I never saw this person before? You know, it's just,
Exactly.
that could be you, you know?
Yes.
I still get that. I still get, oh my gosh, I just found you. You know, aren't you cute? I hope you keep making videos. I'm like, I've been here 10 years. I mean,
Right.
like, you know, where have you
Chances are
been?
good I'll still be here in another 10. So
You'll probably still be here. Yeah.
oh my gosh. Well, I have other questions to ask Jayda, but I do want to open it up for you guys as well. So if you in the audience have any questions for Jayda, please pop those in the chat and I will be keeping up with that now. So I apologize. I'm not always very good at multitasking. That's why we do it this way, is otherwise I'm like, it's like you were saying when you're trying to crochet and then you're trying to keep up with the chat. My followers know that I'm not the best at keeping up with my crochet. I'm better at keeping up with my chat usually. I get like barely a row done, and I'm like, yes, here we go. 2 hours. I got a row done, you guys. Oh my goodness. And hello, Shade. Good to see you too, my dear. And Nessa and Callie. Hi, Tank. Oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying the interview, Gianna. I know it's like interview. It's like, it's like businessy, but it's fun just hanging out with you. Whether I had questions or not, we could be chit-chatting, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Winsome would like to know, how do you enjoy being in the hive so far? That's coming onto my channel.
It's lovely. You know what? It's kind of fun to be asked questions
Yeah.
like this. Like I feel like in the 10 years of having run the channel, we've kind of done videos on how I learned to crochet and what my first crochet project was and all that, because it's kind of cute content. But to try and sort of like stuff it all into one like hour kind of thing is kind of neat. Like I don't usually think about this stuff. So it's kind of fun to have to revisit, like why we started the channel and how we feel about it and like all that stuff. It's kind of fun. It's kind of
makes
fun
you think about where your journey has come from 10 years
ago and you appreciate
now.
it. You're like, wow, wow. We've done a lot.
Oh my goodness. Exactly. Okay, Callie, she's so funny. She wants me to show you Kermit's hand. So we had Drew Hill on last week, who made the new Crochet Muppet book. And we had fun playing with, where's my camera, you guys? Kermit's hands. So before I attached them, we were soaring through the air and we just had random hands. We were just doing all these funny things with. So it's like you get to, and then you do the like Kermit, stuff like that. So fun to play with these things. But she wanted me to show you his hands.
He's adorable. That's really well made. It looks amazing.
Yeah, he came out pretty cute. Kermit. Yep, exactly. Let's see. I guess all tea is served with honey in the hive, David said. It's so funny. Let's see. Hi, Panda. Let's see. Okay, Gianna says, hi, Jayda. When you do crochet, what do you mainly do? Like blankets, plushies? I think we kind of talked a little bit about that. But is there something right now that you're specifically working on? Like, what are you working on right now, too?
I do everything. And in 10 years, I've done everything. Right now, I'm really exploring the whole painting with crochet thing. So I'm designing a lot of like appliques, a lot of graph stuff, like mosaic stuff. Because I really love imagery and crochet. So that's mostly what's occupying my brain right now, and my fingers for that matter.
Right. Let's see here. Krista asks, amongst all the crocheting, has children ever been in the plans for you and Mr. InStitches?
We don't talk about our family a whole lot. I know that sort of surprises people. And so we prefer to kind of just not talk about our family because our family, a lot of them don't want to be out there on the internet. So we've been purposely nebulous about, our family because we respect everybody's privacy. So we just don't talk about it, and we probably won't. Yeah.
And that's okay. Shade wants to know, do you crochet many wearables? I know you sew them, but do you like to crochet them as well?
Yeah. I've crocheted a wearable everything. I think I've had long skirts, tops, sweaters. I've made, especially before we had the channel, I was making a lot of like sweaters and cardigans and stuff.
Yeah.
And the reason we don't, and then the next question is, well, where are the tutorials? And it's like, well, I like to make tutorials that everybody can use to make something to fit them. And body shapes are extremely varied.
Right.
So I always try to create something that is measurement based, which requires a lot more thinking and a lot more planning.
Sure.
So I don't do a lot of like wearables, like big sweatery projects and stuff, unless I can break them down into very easy to measure parts for people, because nobody wants to make something that they spend money on, and then it doesn't fit properly.
Sure.
And I've never once in my life come across crochet patterns, knitting patterns, sewing patterns where despite their best efforts, hey, are you a size? Well, what does that mean? What's a size 16 anymore? Because,
Right.
if you're sewing, my sewing patterns, I'm a size 12, size 12 to 14 in my sewing patterns. Well, in the 90s, they were like, oh, well, everything, they're going to change the sizes because they don't want anybody to feel large. You know what?
Right.
Just can we have one set of sizes that,
Yeah.
is kind of a target to aim for? Because I've got everything in my closet from a 0 to like a 14. What does that even
Yeah.
mean? None of it. None
Right.
of it means anything anymore. What does a quarter XL mean? Well, I don't know. Like, what
Mhm.
part of you is the big part? What part of you is the small part?
Yeah.
So I want to make tutorials that people can go, oh, I just need to measure this. I
Mhm.
make this for that measurement on me so that when
Yeah.
it fits me, and it's not
Mhm.
some off the rack idea of what a 12 is or an
Right.
XL or a 4XL. I don't like that. My
Yeah.
family are all different shapes.
Mhm.
So, I want to make sure I make something that is
Spot on.
especially for that person. So
Yeah.
I need to do it by measurement, and it has nothing to do with like general sizing. So
Mhm.
I love to make wearables, but I like to make most of our wearable tutorials are like a little more easy to deal with, like a hat, a
A
scarf,
one
mitts,
size kind of thing.
fingerless gloves, yeah, stuff like
Yeah.
that. We do want to make more sweaters, but I got to make sure that they're approachable for everybody. Otherwise, I don't want to do it. I don't want to put it
Yep.
out there. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Mr. In Stitches, I'm puppy sitting, Penny is snacking, so apparently she's awake. She's being
Let
very
the
good
SARS go
though.
by. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Let's see here. So Gianna would like to know, what is your favorite color, or do you have a favorite color?
For the longest time, orange was my favorite color. I have a lot of orange in
Mm-hmm.
my world. I just love it because it's like bright and cheerful and happy. But I also like pink and green a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at my closet, you'd think my favorite color was black because that's like almost my entire closet. But that's because I just kind of, I feel like black's a nice canvas for a lot of bright colors that I
Yeah.
put on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
But to work with, blue and yellow, apparently. That seems to be the yarn color I go through the most, blue and
Yeah.
yellow. I don't
Do
know
you
why,
have
but
do you have a favorite type of yarn, or whether that's like a size of the yarn and or a type of yarn, like, brand of yarn, I guess.
I'm not, see, I live in Canada. So
Mm-hmm.
when I started crocheting, there was no online shopping. It was like whatever you could get at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And most of what we could get in the past was like made in the Listowel factory in Ontario. So we're
Mm-hmm.
talking like Burnett, Pattons, Karen,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of stuff. And then eventually Red Heart and Lion Brand were, we were seeing that on the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, like you were saying, earlier when we were chatting that you're worried about the big twist kind of going away. I've never even been able to try big twist. Like
Right.
I've never even been to a
Let
Joanne.
me
So it's
know if
like,
you need any, Jada.
yeah,
Now, I told her, I'm like, I
yeah.
got
So
so much yarn. I don't know what I was doing. I'm having this like, I got to go back to Joann's. I got to keep buying.
yeah, it's worrisome when your favorite supply goes away. We have in Ontario, we had a bunch of places called VNS. It was like a
Uh-huh.
little department store. They were independently owned, and they usually had a really good yarn selection,
Mm-hmm.
like a nice little yarn department. And they've largely gone away, and I miss them so
So
much
sad.
because they had a really nice selection of different kinds of yarns.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say size 4 medium weight is my
Mm-hmm.
favorite yarn to work with, probably because it's also the easiest for me to get my hands on.
Sure.
Acrylic, because it's generally the cheapest,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to spend a ton of money on my hobby, especially considering how much I like to crochet.
Yep.
I want my dollar to go as far as it can. So if I'm
Yep.
buying a book, if I'm buying, I want to be selective about where I put my money in my hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, I do have some very expensive yarn, but I haven't made anything out of it yet because I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to mess it
It's
up, you know?
You got the bougie yarn. I have a bag of bougie yarn. I don't have I got it for Christmas from my sister-in-law, and I have no idea what to make with it because it's like, yeah, you have one ball and you're like, what am I going to do with this? It's so pretty. I don't, it's like,
I have
uh,
some alpaca, I have some merino, I have some silk
mhm.
yarns, and they're gorgeous. And I just take them out and look at them sometimes. I haven't done anything with them yet. They'll probably end up being like neck scarves, something
Yeah.
really simple and plain and small like that.
Yeah.
But I may not even, I may knit with them. I don't know. I haven't really decided what to do it. So when it comes
Yeah.
to like what I'm crocheting with, 4-weight acrylic.
Mm-hmm.
I really do love Lion Brand. I think they're one of the show's sponsors, and I just think that is like a match made in heaven, because I've been a Lion Brand fan most of my crocheting career, because my grandmother is a knitter and she always had Lion Brand around. She really liked a lot of Lion Brand yarn, so I kind of was. It was a family known business, like
family favorite and stuff.
So I feel like they do really good stuff, so I really like their acrylics. Now I haven't even had a chance to try all their different yarns, because usually I try to buy it in person as opposed to ordering it on the internet.
You can't feel it otherwise. How are you going to know if it's scratchy or something?
The color could be funny because the lighting is different, most of what you'll find in my stash is like Bernat, Red Heart, Lion Brand, a little bit of loops and threads, and the odd little bit of like Mary Maxim and some no-name stuff, I guess.
Did you ever go into the thicker yarns, like the blanket yarns, or have you stuck mostly?
I have that. Yeah, we've got a series of big fluffy pillows that we've made, like this. My big Easter egg,
cozy.
And a heart and a moon and stars and a whole bunch of things, and it's using that big blanket weight stuff, which is really fun, and it's nice and squishy. I really like it a lot. But
Mr. InStitches wants to know, what are we having for dinner tonight? Penny wants to know.
Whatever he feels like making.
Oh, we should throw that one back in your court. I love that. Oh my God. That's so funny. This is what happens when our husbands are in the chat, this is like a comedic relief.
Well, yeah, they're the ultimate trolls, right?
Right, exactly.
I've actually got a lot of like the blanket yarn in my collection, and I want to do more projects with it, but I end up going back to the size 4 stuff because I just have a lot of it, and it's kind of what I'm used to using. So you tend to gravitate to the thing that you're familiar with because you can work with it faster,
Definitely. Yeah. Shade says, where are you here in Canada? I thought I was the only Canadian here. I'm from British Columbia. And she said,
Ontario. Born and raised Ontario. Yeah.
She says she confused me about talking about toques for a minute. I think it's toques. Toques. Still confusing me.
Yeah.
So you guys you're also in British Columbia then?
No, we're Ontario.
Oh, you're Ontario. That's right. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Let's see. Krista says, Jayda, Big Twist is very comparable to loops and threads. It's a soft classic from Big Twist is from Joanne's. I think that's what she was meaning. Which made me going, oh my gosh. Anyway, Jessica asks, when will we have a gaming and crochet day? Not blaming Penny.
We've got to. We've recently reorganized our setup, so we've been trying to kind of make better sense of our space, the craft room, the office. And in order to have another gaming and crochet session, we actually need to get a more comfortable spot for me to sit in so that the mister can use his new computer that he got. We're still largely running things through the old computer because we just have to figure out like a comfortable way to sort of, for both of us to be on screen at the same time, but be in the same room and also babysit the dogs.
Yeah, it's a
working on that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. So I don't want to ask that. Well, I mean, I guess I could. Where do you buy the bulk? Oh, the bulk of your yarn. Where do you buy the bulk of your yarn? I thought I wrote, where do you buy bulk yarn? I'm like, why would I? Where do you shop usually? Is it so you like to go into a store? So in Canada, what store is the go-to store for you?
We have the primary craft store we have is Michael's.
Okay.
So I like to go to Michael's. Some Walmarts have an okay yarn section. Some don't.
Yeah.
The V&S, if I can find a V&S department store, they're few and far between and almost gone now, but they were my top pick for a long time, just because they had a really great, and Kmart back when we had our
Oh my
Zellers, I should
gosh,
say.
Kmart. Yes, I remember
Back when we
Kmart.
had Zellers, which is kind of like, but Zellers had a great department store for a great department yarn department, and we don't have Zellers anymore. So
Yeah,
all of it, they all just kind of keep going away. But
fizzling
so
away.
Michael's
Mhm.
is the best option really for me. And then
Yeah.
Len's Mills I really enjoy, which
Hmm.
is kind of more of an Ontario thing, I think. And Mary Maxim, if I can get down there. I love visiting Mary Maxim.
So Mary
And
Maxim
that's,
has a location you can actually go to. I knew people could buy it online. I didn't know they had an actual storefront.
they have a store in Paris, Ontario, which is like kind of their
Oh,
headquarters.
yeah.
And it's just a lovely place to visit. It's
Yeah.
really fun. Yeah.
That's so cool. Nessa says, I miss Kmart and Sears. Me too. And Mervyn's. Did you guys have Mervyn's? Or no?
Don't think so.
It was a
No.
clothing one, but oh, they had the best stuff. Hi, Michael. Let's see. Okay, so do you ever crochet with cord yarn for things like hanging planters or a wall art hanging?
Oh, like macrame. I have. I don't
Mm,
very often. I do it more for like, I guess, the novelty of it. Like I on
sure.
a live stream last year, I made a snowflake using macrame cord, and it was a tiny little snowflake applique pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And I used macrame cord to kind of show sort of the how you can upsize something. And I
Mm-hmm.
hung it outside. It was an outdoor decoration
Oh,
last year in
nice.
the winter, and
Yeah.
it was actually kind of cute. So, but I don't use it very often,
Mm-hmm.
but it does work. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. What about have you gotten at all into the micro crochet, working with the thread?
Yes, I like to crochet with embroidery floss when I have the
Mm-hmm.
patience to do it, and also with crochet thread now and again.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be careful. Like it hurts if you are working tiny for a long period of time. So I
Yeah.
usually do very tiny little projects, small doilies, but I
Mm-hmm.
have made a lot of my amigurumi out of thread just to sort
Mm-hmm.
of enjoy them being extremely tiny.
Yep.
And I have like a little container of them. Like I made my little chibi dolls out of thread
How cute. I know. I love
several
doing
years
that
ago.
too. There's so much.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It's like fascinating for me to make the same pattern in blanket yarn and then in acrylic yarn and then in the floss, just to see such big size changes. It's really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cute.
Hi, Darcia. She said, hello to both of you. Just got home. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. Just seeing if there's any other questions for Jayda. What Canadian staple foods do you recommend? There you go. Foods
Canadian
you like.
staple foods.
Are there any?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm like, what's really Canadian? I mean, everybody's gonna say, oh, poutine, like that's a kind of a Quebec dish, but it's been kind of like it's sort of been pulled right across the country. Like I would
Mm,
say, if you like poutine, Newfoundland poutine is probably the best.
mm.
Um, I'll just leave you to go investigate what Newfoundland poutine is,
I
because
have no idea what poutine is, but I'm going to be checking that out.
so poutine is out of Quebec. I
Mm.
think that's where it originated. It's basically French fries with gravy and cheese curds,
Ah.
and it is the ultimate in comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everybody does a different spin on it. So now, like, you can get poutine with like meat, like with like
Mm-hmm.
pulled pork and like
More,
whatever. But there's all different
yeah.
kind of ways to make it. But the Newfoundland version is my favorite.
Oh.
But other than that, I'm like, I don't know really what is considered Canadian cuisine, because
Mm-hmm.
most other than that, and maybe like the odd, like, I mean, there's not a lot of traditionally Canadian dishes.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
guess because Canadian can't if you're Canadian, you've got roots of something else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like and everybody's like, I don't know. Like I cook a lot, but everything I cook is from somewhere else, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, poutine's pretty good. I love that. Newfoundland poutine, that's my favorite.
Do you speak French?
I speak A little French.
A little bit.
I can get by. Like I
Mm.
can understand what's being said around me, and I can
Okay.
get by in it, but it's not, nowhere near fast conversational.
Yeah.
Um,
You can
but I can
understand
read
if
it.
somebody's talking about you.
Yeah, like if I'm passing through Quebec, sort of thing, and I'm, if you're having breakfast in the breakfast bar at the hotel, and everybody's, parlaying around you,
Mm-hmm.
I can get the gist of what's being said.
Mm-hmm.
I'll miss the nuances, but yeah, I can
Right.
kind of, I know what's going, depending on the accent. Like some uh some French is easier to understand than others, just
Yeah.
like any accent. Some
Mm-hmm.
languages, like people, they have a really thick, strong accent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like some of the more, what I would call like gritty Quebecois, I can't understand it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I got, you have conversational French. I can kind of get by in.
That's cool. uh, Callie says, isn't vinegar on fries pretty Canadian?
Is
Is
it?
it? I don't know. That doesn't sound good to me, but that's because I'm not a huge vinegar fan. But
I grew up having vinegar on fries. I don't
yeah.
I don't reach for that, but yeah, that's usually, there used to be, when you'd go to a restaurant, there'd be vinegar on the table, because
Mm-hmm.
people put vinegar on their fries.
Mm.
And come to think of it, yeah, that does make sense, because the few times when I was a kid, we'd be traveling in the States, we'd be like, well, where's the vinegar? Like there was no vinegar on the table, and that was just something you saw on the table in a restaurant, was
Yeah.
vinegar.
You noticed it was
Um,
missing.
yeah.
Charlie says we call that dirty fries. Oh, is that something? I think that's what he's talking about. Vima wants to know, what is your favorite clothing style?
My favorite clothing style. I don't I don't know if I have a favorite clothing style. I think that might be my problem, Vima. I like too many styles, and if you look in my closet, you'll be like, what am I even looking at in here?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
Hodgepodge.
way too many styles. Yeah. I think I like everything from super high tailored stuff to loose flowing boho. Like I just love everything. So
It just depends on the
uh
day and your mood,
it
right?
does. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Let's see. I wonder if she's saying, well, we were talking about vinegar. I wonder if she's asking about your favorite dressing style. No, that's got to be clothing. I was like thinking dressing, like what do you dress your salad with or something? I don't know. Could be that too. Oh my gosh. Gianna wants to know, what's your favorite US state that you've been to?
Oh, well, I haven't, like, I guess I've been through several of them, but
Mm-hmm.
none of them long, and like I never really stayed long enough in any of them to kind of form a proper opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it depends, like if you want to, like, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the United States reminds me of Canada just because of the topography.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere I've gone in the States, I've been like pretty impressed with how just friendly everybody is,
Mm-hmm.
and helpful. Um,
You're not like
helpful
that
and
in
friendly.
Canada?
I think we're very helpful and friendly. It's just very different. Like
It's
in
different. Yeah.
Canada, I would say this. I'd say that in Canada we are helpful and we are friendly, but
Mm-hmm.
we're reserved. I
Mm.
think Canadians, and I think it has a lot to do with it just being cold and dark here so much, that we all just
Mm-hmm.
kind of tend to spend our time indoors to ourselves a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
that takes a toll on your ability to be social and
Mm-hmm.
just be like forthcoming with, cheery behavior and outgoing attitudes. Because
Mm-hmm.
in the States, I'm constantly, whenever I would be down there, I was stunned at how people would just turn around and talk to you,
Yeah.
complete strangers, and be like full on engaging, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
like when you're speaking to Canadians are friendly, but there's like a bit of a wall
You
there.
can
Not
tell
a
there's,
weird
yeah.
one. It's just reserved, I guess, kind of
Sure.
like
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit reserved. Like we've got a coat on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in America, everybody's in a tank top, baby. Like
That's
we
right.
like, what are we talking about? Let's
Yeah.
talk. Like that was sort of like, because somebody once said to me, we did a vlog, we did like a little vlog where I went yarn shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't been yarn shopping in a year, and so this was me going yarn shopping, and we filmed a little bit in the store, but not a lot. And we got all these questions like, oh my gosh, why weren't you talking to people? Like, why weren't you just turning to people and talking in the aisles? And I'm like, you don't do that here. Like if I was just
What are
suddenly
you
walking,
taking for?
yeah, like, well, it's weird.
Yeah.
Some people will strike up a conversation with you
Yeah.
in a small town,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not normal to just strike up a conversation like with somebody
Mm-hmm.
and talk for a long time. I mean, you do, like, you might be like, oh, yeah, I've used that yarn, it's good, blah blah blah. But I don't know, we just tend to be a little more reserved here. I
Yeah.
certainly am, and
Mm-hmm.
most of the people I know are. So
Yeah.
that's something I noticed was very different traveling through the US. I just noticed that people were just like would just turn and start talking to you, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we're
They'll
having a
ask you very
conversation.
personal questions too, and you're like, do I know you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, or they'll tell you about themselves and their personal life, and you're like, wow, I just had
Yeah,
this whole gamut of
full
information.
info dump. Yeah, and it didn't bother me, but it was just very strikingly different,
Yeah, different than you were used to, for sure.
Mhm.
What is your favorite stitch? Or do you have one?
I can double crochet really fast, so I
Mm-hmm.
tend to like that.
Yeah.
Um, and in terms of like a pattern stitch, I see myself. I have to fight to not revert to the shell stitch all the
Okay.
time.
Mm-hmm.
There's something so comforting and fast about that. I like that one. I use that one a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I could probably stand to like venture away from that a little bit more.
Like, don't make the shells, Jayda. Don't make the shell. No, I
I want
made it
something
again.
different. Let's try something different, Jayda.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Hope it jumped. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anybody's questions. Oh, they're asking each other questions. Yeah, David said in Sweden, David and Shire from Sweden. So in Sweden, it's very odd behavior if you randomly talk to people. So yeah, that might be just, I feel like us in the States versus probably anywhere else, it's very different. I don't know how it became that way, but yeah.
I really think the natural environment, like the temperature, I'm not kidding when I say,
Yeah.
like, when most of your life is about it's cold and it's dark and I'm just going to be
Mhm.
inside, it affects how you interact with the rest of the world. If you live
Yeah.
in a warm, hot climate and you live outside and it's easy to be outside and your
Yeah.
neighbors are always outside, you're just going to be more in the habit of talking to
Hmm.
people. um I was just talking to my sister-in-law before, we got together this afternoon, and we were kind of talking about how, like, in this country you just shut down in,
Hmm.
early November. It starts getting cold and dark, and you
Hmm.
just close your doors and windows, and then you don't poke your head back out until like April.
Oh my gosh.
And you know uh,
Yeah.
seriously, and you only go out, like, and now if you're an outdoorsy person, like you're into skiing and, right, okay, you're gonna have a different take on the world. I used to be
Mm-hmm.
like that. The older I get, though, I'm not. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be driving at night. I don't want to be driving in the snow. I don't want to be
Yeah.
driving through scary icy conditions. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what's around here all the time. So you don't go
Mm-hmm.
out. You don't go out. You don't go do things, and then you basically just go out to go food shopping like every 2 weeks, and then
Yeah.
5 months is gone, and
Right.
you're like, oh, is the spring here yet? So you don't talk to anybody in 5 months, and when you finally are presented with a person, you're like, you know,
What do I talk about? You're like
yeah.
all
So
pale because you've been hiding, It's very
it,
vampire-ish of
it,
you.
it really
Coming
does.
out.
It really does change how you talk to people, though.
Yeah.
It must.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
I'm originally from California, so I'm used to the whole beachy, like always sunny, doesn't rain, that kind of thing. And I live up in Washington, so I'm getting the 3/4 of the year it's raining and it's dark and it's like your mood. So I completely understand how that can affect, your whole life and how you interact with people. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it really does. Yeah.
Let's see here. Dee. People are friendly like that in the South, in the US, and small towns. It's weird. I lived in a very big US cities and people are in more of a rush. That's very true. Yeah. Many years to get used to odd Southern US. That was Nessa. Vima says, Jayda and Julianne, I have to go to bed. It's 1:45 a.m. here, so sorry. Oh, no worries. It's so nice that you could come and hang out with us. That was so nice of you. Let's see. Did I miss anybody? Michael wants to know, Jayda, also, does your brain keep going, keeping you from sleeping, always coming up with new projects all the time? Asking, because I want to know if it's just my brain or is it other creators as well?
Oh yeah, it never turns off.
Right?
It never turns off, and it can make you crazy.
Oh, I hear the pups. I hear her.
Yeah, she's whimpering. He's husband's trying to like distract her.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never, if you're creative, I think it's like a lot of things. If your brain is geared to making something,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're running a channel and you're making something, any kind of content every week, your brain gets hardwired. It gets rewired to that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop. It doesn't turn off. You can't take vacations. You can tell yourself you're taking a vacation, but you never stop. You never stop
You don't
looking at something and seeing it, turned into content, or seeing it turned into a project, or certainly. So yeah, no, and it does. It keeps you awake. It never stops. And sometimes it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you're always kind of like seeing it as a seeing the artistic project in something. But other times you're like, I just want to be a normal human being, and like, can I just watch this show without trying to crochet it?
Yes. Oh my
God. But yeah, no, it never turns off. It's I don't know when it will, and if it ever will, but it certainly hasn't in all this time.
Do you do things or not? Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, are there things that you've wanted to do for yourself, but then you start thinking, how can I make this into content? And then you're like, well, I don't know if that's really interesting, so I guess I just won't do it. Like, does your brain
all the time?
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
It changes because you're like, well, I'm taking my time in the day. I need to have something that's going for the channel, right? And so it's kind of that constant struggle.
It is a struggle. Yeah, like a ton of personal projects have been put on hold just because I'm like, well, I can't justify in a funny way doing this because I feel like I should be doing something else for the channel.
Right.
And this is boring and nobody would be interested, or, even crochet projects I've not bothered doing because I'm like, well, I can't really justify crocheting something if I'm not documenting it somehow.
Right.
I don't think that's healthy. I think maybe I should, really reconsider that in a lot of ways, because there are some things I should just make it for the sake of making it because I wanted to make it, and it doesn't have to be a big production. But it's difficult to get out of the mindset.
Definitely. Really, we're right there with you, Michael. Let's see. Okay, good, because I keep coming up with new ideas for content, and glad I'm not alone. Yeah, he has a whole door. He's basically turned his door into like a thing he can write on, sprayed it. I don't know if it's chalk or what he used. I think it's like a whiteboard thing, but he's got all his ideas on his door. A regular old board wasn't big enough, Yeah,
I've got a whiteboard. I've got a binder. I've got computer software that I've actually written so that I can keep track of all my ideas. Yeah, it's an obsession, really.
Exactly. Yep. Do you work on more than one project at a time, or do you always like start and finish a project and then start something new?
I try not to. Like, I mean, we always do the calendar project, the calendar blanket project. And so that's something ongoing, but it's kind of largely thought out before like we film the individual segments of it. So mostly it's just one project at a time. I really try to do that.
Yeah.
I don't like having loose ends. I'd like to just sort of try and do one thing at a time. It feels better.
Are you saying you don't have any 15-year-old projects like in the closet somewhere that need to be finished?
I do have a few.
From experience.
I do have a few, but they're small, so they're easy to ignore.
Yeah. I know. We're going to have to do a segment where it's like, okay, am I going to finish this? Am I going to frog this? Or am I going to fling it to somebody else to do? So, you kind of have to do some spring cleaning on your whips, I think. Yeah, Michael says, I'm always doing for the channel, even personal projects for the channel. Got to get the Tunisian out there in my reasoning. Yeah. It's hard to be a multi-whip person. It is, isn't it? Lots of things going on. You're constantly all over the place. Do you, let's see. Oh, we did that one. Okay. I think we've gotten all of the questions in the chat, unless you guys have any more for Jayda. Let me just see if there's any more I wanted to ask you, because I think they asked you some of the ones I had on my list. So, oh, do you still sell things? You were talking about how you did markets before. Do you still do those, or are you kind of beyond that now? You're just focused on the channel?
Yeah, I haven't done a market in a long time. I did them, I was doing them more frequently before the arthritis really showed up.
Yeah.
But the arthritis really sort of ratcheted back how much I can crochet. So I haven't really done any in a while. And they're tiring too. So no, I haven't done any of that in a long time.
Yeah. I started buying all the stuff for setup purposes. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should start doing that again. And then I'm like, I don't have time to sit there and make, 300 plushies or something.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, it does. The market is a whole other ball game. Oh, they're asking if they can see your dog. But do you want to bring her in?
I really don't, because it's it's sort of a tight spot, and she's so bouncy. She'll make a mess.
Oh, Nala and Simba, they want to know, do you ever get recognized in public and people that have seen you online?
Yeah, once I got recognized. I literally walked into a yarn store. So I thought, like, if I'm going to get recognized, I guess that's the place to be recognized. But
yeah,
I was approached. I mean, I don't know, if people, again, we're in Canada. Canadians are a little different. We're a little less likely to go, waltzing up to somebody and go, oh my gosh, I know you.
Yeah.
So I think, like, I don't know if somebody kind of went, I think I know who that is, but then just kind of kept walking. Because I've done that a lot myself. I'm like, do I know that person? I'm not going to bother them. I used to work at a restaurant when I was a teenager, and it just happened to be this spot where James Cameron went a lot. And he was always bringing his friends and business dealings and stuff there. So I waited on a ton of celebrities, and some of them I didn't even know they were celebrities until somebody else was like, oh my gosh, do you know who that was? I'm like, but I never once let on. Like, I never acted like, and because I think I was starstruck like once. One time somebody was there and I was like, oh my gosh. But most of the time I was like,
just another person. Yeah.
They just want to come in and eat and drink, and I'm busy and I've got other tables. Like,
yeah.
So
I hope they tip me.
Yeah. I just, and as long as you're polite, I don't really care. But
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like, it wasn't really it wasn't a thing. So I guess, like, I think that's also kind of part of the culture. But no, for the most part, no. But also Canada, very small population. Most people, like, there's just not a lot of us in the same place at once. And we kind of keep to ourselves. So if I'm in a yarn store, that's kind of where I would expect to be recognized, because I'm in that setting, but most of the time people are just like, I got to get my yarn, I got to get out, and so no, once I was recognized, but which was kind of weird. I have to admit, it was like,
took you aback. You're like, wait, weird.
It was like, oh gosh, this. Because sometimes when you probably find this too, when you put kind of, like, you talk to a camera and you're putting it out there, you forget you're being seen. Yeah. I know that sounds funny, but it's like you forget that people are, like, looking at your face, and they know who you are, kind of, in a way. Like, they kind of recognize your face. And then when you're out, and somebody says, hey, I think I know you. And you're like, well, I don't know you. Like,
I've never seen you before in my life. You're like, but we chat every day on your channel. You're like, oh my gosh.
Oh, that, me. Oh, yeah. It's funny. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's so funny. Mr. InStitches says, Izzy, we have a video on our channel called Of Our Puppy. So you can see their puppy on there. She's a cutie. What you said, she was a miniature dachshund?
Miniature dachshund. Yeah.
She's cute.
Yeah, she's really sweet.
Shell says, I want to run into Jayda. I would definitely recognize her.
I'd recognize Shell. That would be funny. Yeah. I think at this point there are some people who not only have their own channel, but you know,
Yeah.
even just like their avatar, like I've been looking at their avatar picture and
Yeah.
their changing avatar picture for so many years. I'd be like, I know you if I ran into you, you know?
Right.
Yeah, there are people who have watched our show that I would probably know, which I think would be kind of funny. Yeah.
That would be funny, right? You're like, should we go have tea? I feel like we know each other so well at this point. Oh my goodness. Let's see. How many rooms of your home are designated for all of your crafts? Just the
Just
one
one.
you're in?
Yeah, just one. Yeah, I really do try. I know this might come as a shock to some people, but like I do have some crochet in the rest of the house, like, you know, a doily here and a wall
Sure.
hanging there, and, you know, Christmas decorations and stuff. Doilies are dishcloths in the kitchen and whatnot, but I don't have um, this wild background, this crazy, you know, craft room is just that. It's a workshop, it's a craft room. This is where everything is. And the rest of
Mhm.
the house is like so austere. You'd be like, what are you, a minimalist or something? Like I don't have shelves full of books and
Yeah.
ornaments, and I just never collect that stuff. I collect
Yeah.
this. That's it, and it's all right here behind me. So
That's so funny. So you don't have tubs and tubs of yarn. Everything that you have is displayed behind you on the wall.
everything do have a closet full, but like
Mm.
I have been pretty careful about all of my I do have a couple of tubs in the garage of like
Mhm.
some completed things that I don't really know what to do with right now. They're sitting in tubs.
Mhm.
But in terms of like craft supplies and all that stuff, it's all in this room. And I try to just like never have so much that I can't just keep it all in one place. So
Yeah.
that does take a little bit of balancing, but it's doable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Um, Michael from MDL Crochet, he's a strictly Tunisian channel. He does tutorials, but he says, I've gotten out of a traffic ticket and gotten a rush pizza order because the police officer and the pizza cook watched me, and it felt really weird. Can you imagine?
Oh my
Police officer
gosh.
pulls you over. Oh my gosh, you're Jayda. Have a good
That's
day.
hilarious. No,
Like,
I
what are the
somehow I don't
odds?
think that would happen here. I think like 80% of the people who watch our channel are from the US. So
Okay.
I would probably be recognized. I would have a better chance of being recognized
Here,
in
yeah.
the US, I think, than
Mm-hmm.
I would in my own country. Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Oh my gosh. Lydia says, Jada, I love your puppy. She's so cute.
Thank you. Yeah, she was sweetie.
Oh, and Izzy says, OMG, I found your dog. Can I steal it? So she's got a fan channel. You could have the Penny channel. She's like, she's could be
Penny
at the
cam.
forefront. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Does anybody have any more questions for Jada? Otherwise, I think I'll let her get going because I want to make sure that I'm conscientious of your time. And not only that, but it sounds like Mr. InStitches is hungry. So he's probably like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what to make for dinner tonight. She needs to hurry up so that she can help me.
Somebody's got to look after the dog while one of us cooks. Yeah.
Right? Yes, exactly. But thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me. This was lovely. This was
Yes.
really, really fun. It was nice to kind of change my brain, but think
Yeah.
about all of this in a different way for a change. It was really neat.
Something
And it
different,
was
you
nice to
know?
meet you too. This has been
Yeah.
lovely.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Mr. InStitches, I am giving her back to you now. You can enjoy dinner together and pet Penny for me, would you?
I will. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.